everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 19 of The Great Pretender, and last episode was hard. Last episode was so hard to get through. My heart fell to my stomach. I was just like, because Makoto has like fallen seemingly into this darkness, and it's become like he's completely just given up hope of anything working out, and for him to be able, it's like he's become completely enveloped in the con game and is now like, screw it, I've lost Cynthia and Abigail, Laurent's abandoned me, I guess I'll just go along with the Yakuza and just become a bad guy like I've always been meant to be. And it's like, oh no, I want Makoto to get out of that rut and for him to get out and realize that it doesn't have to be that way and to quit being like he's being. But instead, his dad shows up, who he thought he killed, to tell him the backstory for Laurent. So Oz and Laurent are tied together. We're finally getting backstory, and it seems from the onset, or from where we ended off with at the last episode, that Laurent and Makoto may not be so different in their positions. So I said with the last episode that I'm probably going to have to bring Whiteboard Kun out when we do the discussion and map this whole timeline out and what's happening because things are getting crazy. But y'all, I don't think I would ever drop a show on here. I think even if it got really, really bad, I would just talk about it and talk about what I don't like about it. But I was not happy with that first half of the last episode. I was like not having it. And then as it kept going and we started getting more with Laurent, I'm like, okay, all right, show, what are you doing? Are you making these comparisons and parallels with Makoto and Laurent? Has it been all leading up to this? I'm sure it has. What are you going to give me now? And that's what we got to find out. So we'll see, right? Right? Oh, y'all, I don't know. I'm excited. I like a good flashback. If y'all know me, you know I love a good flashback, and that seems what we're going to be doing. So we have 5 episodes left. We have 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. Like, it's only a 23-episode season. So we have 5 episodes left. We're entering the final act. And, oh my gosh, y'all. So what do we go to from here? We'll see, right? We'll see. So, but I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm super excited to see what's going to happen, and I hope you all are too. I couldn't wait. I was like, nope, just got to find out. So we're going to start The Great Pretender, episode 19, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this, y'all. This just gets more and more intriguing. There's so much now. I'm like, oh my God. So yeah. So this whole episode was just like all of the parallels, everything coming full circle, and seeing that Laurent is quite in the same boat that Makoto was at the start of this, which begs the question of what do we do, right? What do we do with this? So, okay, so we know that Oz is telling Makoto the story. Now, obviously, we get to see things from Laurent's perspective that Oz obviously wouldn't know. So, there is a question of what is Makoto going to get from this that is different than what we, the audience, get from it. But to recap the timeline of where we're at with everything, we start out with Laurent, or Laurie, in the last episode, was born in Brussels with his mom, Emma. And then his mom ends up signing this contract with Hugo, but she has dyslexia, she can't read it properly, she doesn't exactly know what she's signing, she ends up basically getting taken for all that she's got, and dies shortly after. Now, there is this period of question mark time where we don't know what happens with Laurie, but we can assume, since Laurent and Makoto have major parallels, that he might have just fell down. Like, it's so crazy because Laurent's mom dies, and Makoto's mom dies, and they both kind of fall out afterwards. Laurent didn't have a relationship with his biological father. Makoto didn't have a relationship with his biological father. So they're so similar, and it's just hitting me in this episode how similar they are, and it's kind of crazy, right? But he ends up becoming a gambler in Paris, swindling like Makoto is doing when he was swindling and doing the scams, right? Unwittingly, right? And he becomes part of this con that he didn't even realize it, just like Makoto. So he goes in, he sees Hugo, remembers him, swears revenge, goes to stab him and gets Dorothy instead. But at this point, there's so many fake blood pouches and fake surgeries and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm sure Abby and Cynthia are not dead. I'm sure they are not, right? And so Dorothy somehow, they do the fake stabbing, which they do the fake stabbing here at the end with the Shanghai business. It's all coming together. And he manages to get taken to Dorothy to meet her, Oz, Sion, who are a team of con artists. So there are so many parallels with Laurent and Makoto. It's not even real. And the fact that Dorothy's such a good actress, and the fact that seeing Oz from this perspective is so fascinating, because Oz doesn't seem like a bad guy from this perspective. He's just part of the con team, right? And Dorothy's the mastermind. And Laurent wants to change that because he falls in love. He makes a mistake, right? So yeah, what's interesting about this is that he gets taken to all of them doing the con, and he's just completely thrown off, exactly like Makoto was when he got involved in all this. There's so many parallels. Makoto and him first encountering Laurent and the team is so much like Laurent encountering Dorothy and the team, right? And he's like, who the heck are you people? And Dorothy, what's interesting here is that Dorothy took a liking to Laurent originally because he seemed like he was someone she could use for the cons, right? Much like Laurent takes a liking to Makoto because he seems like somebody that he can use. And then along the way, the funny thing is that Laurent falls for Dorothy, but the question is, does Laurent fall for Makoto? I think so, but the funny thing is Makoto has not fallen for Laurent. That's kind of the funny thing about it, is that Dorothy and Laurent kind of fall in love, or at least Laurent falls in love with Dorothy, and then she's like, okay, sure, let's do this. Whereas Makoto doesn't really fall in love with Laurent in the same way, but does Laurent fall in love with Makoto? I don't know, because it seems like Laurent is trying to get maybe revenge upon Oz because he knows him. Doesn't seem, it's all connected. Now, it's all connected. My fear is that Oz is going to be connected with Dorothy's death. And if that's the case, then Laurent wanting revenge on Oz because he wanted revenge on Hugo could be a thing. If that's the case, then did he really have affections for Makoto, or was he just using him to get to his dad? We don't know. We're not going to know yet, right? But asks who in the world they are. And Dorothy, seeing how she's so much like Laurent, where she's just so like charismatic and like just oozes this sexuality, right? But she's also kind of this mix of Cynthia and Abby too. She's fearless like Abby, but she has this like kind of suaveness to her like Cynthia. But then she says the thing about them being lone wolves, which I'm assuming Laurent has told Abigail as well, the same spiel, and that stuck with Abby. So that's so fascinating, right? And talks about how she lured Hugo to like get her to like him, get him to like her so that she could con him out of the money. And she just goes along. She's like, the end. Cheers. Do you get it, Laurent? And he's like, are you a stand-up comedian? And she's like, I can make people die of laughter. And she's like, my beauty, knowledge, stamina, acting skills, and a wide variety of talents. I can complete any scam successfully. The greatest con woman to ever walk the earth, Dorothy. And then Sion, the femme fatale con artist who taught me about honey trapping. So the former bombshell. Like, she was a former bombshell even back then, right? Which is hilarious. She'll keep you warm on winter nights. And the multilingual lawyer and samurai con artist, Oz. And he doesn't like that nickname. He doesn't like the nickname Oz, right? And so when he tells Makoto a few episodes back, I'm Oz, it's like he's saying he's being someone he doesn't want to be, right? When he returns to Japan, his wife and kids are cold to him. So that's interesting. Getting that perspective from Oz is that when he goes home, his wife and kids are cold to him, which is such a such a weird thing, because so far from our perspective, we've only seen one scene of them together, and that's been the lawyer scene where he does the lawyer duties and he takes Makoto home on his shoulders. That's been the only memory Makoto goes back to of his dad, maybe because it's the one good memory he has. The way that Oz describes it in this episode, things aren't always great when he goes home, that they nag him about being away, and it's not as rosy as what we, the audience, have seen it leading up to now. So that's interesting. That's such a fascinating thing, right? The way that it's phrased there. He's nicknamed the Wizard because he comes up with outrageous plans, and he looks like he's good at performing magic tricks. See how he never talks? It's not because he's modest, but because he's observing. Yeah, and he has his wedding ring on and everything. Yeah. So it's fascinating to see. Makoto is not like his father, which the last couple episodes, it seemed like Makoto was going down the same path as his father, which could very well be the case. But personality-wise, Makoto is more like Laurent than anything. He's not really like, as Huckleberry knocks whiteboard pin over, he's not really like his father. Or doesn't seem to be, right? Doesn't seem to be. And so she's like, the world is our stage. Let's play con games. So it's Dorothy's rules that we don't kill people. We never kill people. We just take their money. But we don't kill people, and that's it. The world's our stage. And from what Dorothy describes it as, she's an orphan who kind of grew up and was like, well, fine, I'll just do whatever I want. And this is how things will go. And Laurent, who's had no stability in his life and hasn't had anybody, like a family, to fall back on since his mother's death, is like, okay, let's do this. And thus we start the con game, right? And go from there. So yeah. And so we go through this where they basically try to sell this land to the guy. I like that Oz picks up the can off the ground like he doesn't want to litter, showing that even as he's conning, there is something maybe under the surface with his character. I don't know. I feel like Oz is responsible for Dorothy's death, right? For getting involved in the Shanghai incident because he ends up becoming the translator for them. So something goes south. Something goes wrong, right? So Laurent joins a team. Get this on here. Laurent joins the team and scams with them. And the thing is, he falls in love with Dorothy. And she said at the beginning, she was like, we're not lovers, we're not friends, we're just a team of business people. And Laurent was like, well, yeah, but I do love I love her pink hair with the undertones. I love it. It looks so good. And they managed to con this guy into getting Sao Paulo. And I love Dorothy's hair, and I love her I love how she looks in all of her outfits and everything with the butterflies. She's so stylish. It's like, I don't blame Laurent for falling for her because she's so charismatic and pretty and smart and so fun that I don't blame Laurent for just falling head over heels. And the funny thing is, it almost seems like the funny thing is when Laurent is doing business actions, he's not like Dorothy at all. All season, Laurent has been kind of in the flashback, he's very much like Makoto. But when we see him in the present time, he honestly comes across more like Oz in a way where he's very quiet and mysterious. He lets Cynthia be the loud and charismatic person. He's not loud and charismatic himself. And it almost feels like it's a very guarded thing. He's very guarded about revealing too much, right? And then as we see more and more cons, we see the two of them get closer together. Laurent has his hair up in the funky hairdos and he's dancing with her. And then we see her just going on and talking. And he kisses her to make her be quiet. I love it. And she's at first she's not fazed by it. She just keeps on talking like it's no big deal. She's like, every night I think about which one to take down. And then Laurent makes his move in Paris, y'all. And I mean, Junichi Suabe, girl, if I was Dorothy, I wouldn't blame her. If he's sitting right there and he's wanting to make the moves, oof. I don't blame him for falling, and I don't blame her for being like, okay, you're hot, we're young, let's do this. And especially, I think the big impetus for him, like, sleeping with her is after the one con goes awry and she nearly dies. He's like, hey. But the thing that's kind of to note about this is that she never, even though she agrees to marry him and everything, she is all business, right? Laurent is the one that wears his heart on his sleeve. Laurent is the really emotional one, kind of like Makoto is now, until he, you know, falls into the ledge of darkness. And she seems to be the one that's like, oh, thanks for saving me. But at the end, it's all just a game, right? It's all just business. It's nothing personal. Because when he, like, saves her and she gets in the car, she's like, where's the money? And they show him that the money is still there. And she's like, oh, good. And he's like, hey. And Laurent has this look on his face like, hey, you nearly died. Like, are you okay? Like, he doesn't say it, but he's just like, you know, he expected her to, like, greet him as the hero. And she's just like, where's the money? Let's go. She doesn't care about that part of it. She lives very, like, in the moment, doesn't care about what happens in the future. And it's like, ugh. Because Laurent seems to be only thinking of the future. And he's thinking of her. And, like, watching her sleep and then waking up. And he talks about the ring around her neck. And she says that she was holding it when she was in a basket placed in front of a church. So she says she doesn't know why that ring gives her comfort, but it does. It's like the only thing that she brought with her in this world into the present has kept with her all this time, right? So it's fascinating. And then Laurent, he wants her to quit. He's like, getting punched hurts, getting shot will kill you. He wants her to quit the games and stop the cons and let him marry him and marry him and move on and retire. He's like, we have enough money. And the crazy thing about it is it's that parallel where Makoto wanted to stop. He's like, we could stop. We don't have to keep going, right? We don't have to keep going. And Laurent kept it going. And in the past, Laurent wanted her to stop, being like, we have enough money. Let's just end it. But chasing that thrill and thrill seeking, she can't do it. She's like, no, we can keep going. We can keep on doing it. And at first she doesn't want to go along with him. And that shot, the shot where he hugs her, where he wants to be with her, like that shot, I'm going to get a picture of it, where he like embraces her. Like he doesn't want to lose her. He's in love with her. And my fear is that he's going to lose her in this last con. And that's going to be it, right? And that's going to send him into a spiral. But we don't know what's going to end up happening, right? But that look, that look where he like is watching her and the two of them are together. It's heartbreaking because he looks at her, but she looks forward, right? And then we see him take her to the Northern Lights, which we got from way back in the beginning. I want to get a picture of it. The two of them together. And she's like, fine. Because I get what she's saying when she's talking about marriage. She says she doesn't want to get married because it's just a spell. It's just a contract. She's like, what is it even? She's like, people, and you kind of get why she would think that because she's been listening to Oz this whole time on the team. And if Oz was having difficulties with his marriage or was having regrets or things weren't working out well, he probably bitched about it to them. And so she's probably like, oh, well, I've heard from Oz just, how strained marriages can be. And in the line of work I want to do, it's not feasible at all. And so she's kind of like, why would I want to do that? But Laurent is like viewing marriage as a binding contract of love and being like, hey, let's get you out of this dangerous world. We have the money. We can be comfortable. Let's just not do that anymore. Right? And so I love when she says, I'll let you cast your spell on me. Just like seeing the parallels and seeing it all come full circle and him wanting to be with her. And I like that Sion's like, do you guys get it on every day? And it's like, yes, they did. They went on their vacation, their Roman holiday. You are absolutely right. And so then Oz, he's like, I should go back to my wife and kid. And Laurent's like, oh, introduce us sometime. And Oz says, don't be ridiculous. You'd be a horrible influence on Makoto. Yeah, what? Are you sure? Yeah, because Laurent can't let Makoto go, right? It does bear the question of, does Laurent really like Makoto and is attracted to him, or is it just to use him to get to his dad? We'll find out next episode. I feel like by the end of the series, that's what we're going to find out about. And it's like, I don't know. And he says, what are your plans, Sion? And Sion's like, I don't know. I'll figure out what we're going to do. And he's like, we're all retiring. And Dorothy's like, I just want to have one more finale mission. A big one. One that we can really go out with a bang on. And I'm like, girl, I have a feeling you should have quit while you were ahead. And she says, Oz, show us your incredible magic one last time. And he says, with pleasure. So the question is that when they're doing the trafficking and everything, the thing that's kind of crazy is Oz says he'll help them with one last thing. So he falls in love with Dorothy, asks her to marry him, and she agrees, but they schedule one last con with Shanghai. It's all going back. So the question is, why did Makoto kept wanting to retire? That is my one question. Makoto kept wanting to retire, which Laurent in the past would have been like, yeah, sure, retire. Get out of here. What are you doing? Like, this is dangerous work. Don't do that. And if he truly liked Makoto, why would he put him in the most dangerous situation possible? But, which makes me wonder if he's just using Makoto. If he's just using Makoto, what the deal is. Like, if he caught wind that maybe Oz was going to try to connect with his son or not, we don't know. But Laurent clearly hated the idea of Dorothy keeping on with these cons, and he wanted to keep her retiring. So all these times Makoto has wanted to retire, why has Laurent kept bringing him back into it? Why didn't he just let him go? Was he afraid that Makoto was going to eventually, because of his nature, get involved in something like the Yakuza and end up going down that path anyway? We don't know, right? But it does beg the question of, is Laurent using Makoto just for revenge, or has he actually cared about him all this time? But anyway, we go with the whole human trafficking thing, and it's right back to where it was from the start, and Lou has been hooked on Mahjong, and then Laurent plays him, and he has the poker skills, and he's multilingual, so it all ties back of why he'd be so good for that role in it, and why in the last episode he was like, oh, tell Lou it's Laurent. Like, we're seeing each other again. What the fudge? And he says, just how many times has he won? And so they end up, what's the deal of it? They say about the trafficking ring, and they talk about how, where is it? I was trying to think what they get on this, because they go back to the ring, right? They go back to the final mission, and I'm trying to think what they end up doing. Okay, yeah. So he ends up they do the fake stabbing, and Oz shows up to save him just in time, like you do. The crazy thing is that Chin, the guy that ends up getting Oz, he wasn't there to see Oz save Laurent, so he's kind of out of the loop. So that's how this all worked out, that Oz could weasel his way back in afterwards. So my question is, if this all went awry with Shanghai, did Oz backstab Dorothy and the others? Because, Sion didn't seem to mind retiring. She was like, well, it'll be kind of boring, but I'll find something else to do. I wonder if Oz didn't want to retire. He was comfortable being away from his family and comfortable having this kind of secret double life of excitement rather than being a lawyer and a husband. And he didn't want to give it up and go back. So he was like, I'm not ready to retire. So I wonder if he's going to end up backstabbing the two of them to keep the job, right? And it could be tied to him being jealous of their romance with one another. We don't know, but there's something else there that we, the audience, don't know yet. But I won't be surprised if Oz... But here's the question. There's the thing, too. Did Oz actually backstab Laurent and Dorothy and get Dorothy killed and Laurent left? Or did he end up being like Makoto, where he was trying to do something and then thought Dorothy and Laurent died, and then ended up doing exactly like Makoto's doing and falling into like, well, I guess I'll just fall in line with this group because that's all I know how to do. We don't know, right? But that could be. We need to see the next episode to know what it is, right? So yeah, but in any case, he ends up saying that Laurent could be the interpreter for Lou. That's how it seems to be going down, that he could be the interpreter. And what's so sad is that his mom, Emma, wanted him to be a diplomat, and he wanted to be a diplomat when he was a kid. And now, for like the Chinese mafia, he's essentially doing that. And it's like the most twisted thing, right? It's so twisted. But the thing of it is that Lou hires him to be the translator, and what ends up happening is that I'll play a wealthy Japanese guy and buy the kids. And we see that it's the perfect role for you. I'll find them foster parents later. So at first it seemed like everything was going all right. It seemed like everything was going right, and Oz was going to get the foster kids to a new home. But then we find out later that that's not what ends up happening. He ends up getting involved in the ring anyway. So I'm so curious to see how it's going to come full circle, right? What's going to end up happening. And so he tells him, he's like, we can discuss the money later. And so instead he says, do you have kids here that I can groom into someone with the vibe of royalty? It's hard to come across an auction like this. So yeah, Oz is part of the con, and he's trying to buy up the kids and wants somebody from royalty. And then Sion shows up saying that they have an Ethiopian princess that's in hiding in Japan that just so happens to fit exactly what the one buyer is looking for. And they're like, Ethiopian princess in Japan? That seems a little off base, right? Seems a little far-fetched. Why would you do that? And Dorothy says, it was her request. And like, Kyoto, won't she stand out? And she says, isn't it obvious? Because I wanted to go there. Dorothy, like, her whole actions are like, she's so laissez-faire, and she just does things because she wants to. She's so brass. It's not necessarily the fact that she feels like she can get away with it or that it's smart. It's just like she lives like, no, I want to do this because I want to do it. But it's all going to tie together, right? And we go to Kyoto in Japan. Oh, so if she's in Japan, is she going to run into Akemi, who's with the Yakuza in Japan? And the son, maybe. I don't know. So they're setting up. So Oz and crew are setting up Lou with Laurent as the translator. Meanwhile, in Japan, in Kyoto, is Dorothy, who will likely run into Akemi and all that business. So, what the fudge? And I wonder if this is around the time that if Oz is going to get discovered around this time, if this is going to be around the time where he gets busted for the human trafficking because they were trying to do the con. The crazy thing is that there's so many directions this could go that could paint Oz in different ways. Like, did Oz fall like Makoto in this whole shebang, or was there more to it than that? Or was it voluntary and he kept in the system of his own volition? And then Laurent, does Laurent really love Makoto, or is he just using him to get to Oz and get revenge if Oz was involved in Dorothy's death? What do we do with this? So, oh my gosh. There are so many questions I have, but I feel like the next episode is going to give us answers, and we only have 20, 21, 22. We only have 4 episodes left. What are we going to do, right? So, but Laurent has been Lou's translator before, so what do we do with that? Makoto right now is Akemi's translator. So, and Laurent is talking to Lou. Oz is gone. So, what is going to happen? What is Laurent going to tell Lou? How does this all fit in? There's so many parallels to Laurent and Makoto that the one thing I keep coming back to is Laurent, knowing what he knows from his personal experience with all this. Why did he keep Makoto coming? Why did he not let Makoto go? Why did he keep bringing him back into the con? Why? Did he become like Dorothy and he just couldn't let him go? What's the deal? And I feel like we need to see the next episode to find out. And I'm like so antsy. I want to like watch it right now, but I'm not going to. But I want to watch it like right now. So, I I can't get over it. And seeing Laurent, like we knew Laurent would be like a romantic, but seeing him be this much of a romantic and him being emotional just like Makoto has been in the past. What do we do with this, y'all? I don't know. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to wait to see episode 20 because I want to know like what's going to happen, what the deal with the Shanghai thing is, how is this going down, but please no spoilers. But I'm so excited. I'm so curious to hear your thoughts down below. What do we do? So, in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more of The Great Pretender. Bye.